After spending over $250,000 on courses, programs, masterminds, I'm gonna give you the 5 things that I've learned from investing in myself and really taking that leap of faith over and over and over, countless times on end, to actually progress my journey as an entrepreneur. So I hope you find value out of this video, and these are really gonna be awesome, so be sure to take notes and be ready to go. First thing that you have to understand when it comes to investing in masterminds and programs is that they all meet you at different points in your cycle. And so one of my first mentors, Grant Cardone, I actually used to work for him for a while, told me about this cycle. And I think he has a YouTube video actually going over it, but he produces so much content, it could be hard to find. But basically the cycle in which someone that is building their business, it's important to understand when you're taking advice from them because of where they're at. So first things first, we all probably started at zero. You know, we don't have a lot of business. And really when you get off of this roller coaster is when you retire, right? So this is really more of a hustle metric as well as a net worth metric. And you can play this game as long as you want. And Grant Cardone talks about that all the time, in which if you take advice from someone that's at the end of their cycle, and they're now more in the philosophy game than they are in actual business and giving you tactical strategy and improvements in now's day and age, then it may not be as helpful as someone that is actually on the come up and actually going through some of the things that you're going through, or even if you're just starting out, right? So I first had to learn that, when I first got started in business and entrepreneurship, I had mentors that were helping me when I was at ground zero. And it takes a certain type of business, mentor, coach, or even program that you buy into. It takes a certain type of person to be able to teach people that are at level zero. Again, that's where I started, even though I was reading books and everything. Level zero just means that the capital that you have available, because capital is a representation of a resource of how fast you can deploy that in order to get more of that back. Right? It talks about in the Bible that, there's a story of the 3 different people in which that what they were lent out, shekels and coin. One came back and just buried the coin and actually didn't have it grow, while the other 2 people did have those shekels grow. And the moral of the story is that if you're not using capital to either save and then save to invest and continue to multiply that capital, you're not being a good steward of it, right? And you won't be blessed with more money if you can't contain and maintain and continue to sustain the growth of that capital, okay? So if you're at ground zero, what you really need to learn is skills. And the skills that you want to learn, you need to determine what industry that you want to be a part of. So if it's digital marketing, for example, you need to look at the people that are in digital marketing, teaching digital marketing, that have been in the game for a while. So the first thing you need to learn is the due diligence, okay? Who are the players? What kind of programs and networks and masterminds can you join in there, okay? Once you understand that, then you can actually go apply and buy some of the things that you want to invest in to continue to further your skill set. But doing more due diligence on what it is that you want to do first starts with you looking inward, okay? Then you can look outward and actually start to invest into those programs. So for me, it was crypto. For me, it was e-commerce. It was marketing and learning financial markets. That's what I went to college for. That's what I invested in. And then as I continued to make more money, I then invested into skill sets that help my business operations scale up, because I kept hitting different lids. So I remember the first time that I made $10,000 in a month, I was writing down that goal that I would make $10,000 in a month for months. I think it was actually for probably about a year and a half, I was writing that down, and I had to learn the skills to be able to make $10,000 a month. Then as soon as I hit that, I remember I was like, okay, I need to double the goal, $20,000 a month. Well, that following month I did 30,000. And that rapid growth meant that I was either able to sustain my capital efficiency and the ability to maintain that capital and continue to grow it, but I was on to something. And when you start having that first win, you then need to look at your business a little bit differently, because now you just doubled down on what was working, but you need to start learning and scaling out through it. That's when you start to invest into yourself as you learn that you have deficiencies, as we all do, okay? So first things first is learning the skill sets, investing in your first program. For me, it started at $500, okay? And I learned digital marketing and I learned that skill set. So when I learned that first skill set, I then learned the power of networking, which is really the first major point that I want to make. Once you have invested into a program, and let's say you're at like a lower ticket type program, that network and that class that you're with, that community is it with, they're on typically to something that is going to start that journey with you, right? And so I remember the first time I invested into that, the group that was around me, some people fade out and some people grow with you, but at the end of the day, you guys kind of grow up together, kind of like through high school, right? And you start to then see and follow those people go on to bigger and better things. And so it's important to keep your community and keep that network tight for the people that are actually winning and actually pushing forward. as you progress from, level 0, now you have 10K, 50K, et cetera. Now our company does millions of dollars per month, not only for ourselves, but even for some of our clients. Being able to understand that game really came from me investing into the next level of skill set. So once I understood how my skill can then create income, the next level was how can I multiply that skill set or multiply my leverage of that skill set to then get to the next level for the same effort to make 3 times as much. So when I went from 10K, then I thought, I could do 20K. That was really off of the, work of myself, like the personal work that I was doing. And I had hit a lid of how much money that I could actually make, right? Because your asset of understanding your knowledge or understanding a certain subject really, really, really well typically gets capped out at some point because you only have so much time. So then the second skill set that you need to learn is the power of leverage. Okay, you can leverage capital, you can leverage lever up into real estate and things like that. But understanding the game of leverage is how do you take what someone already paid you for, how can you replicate that and duplicate that? Okay, so the agency model is pretty straightforward. You learn Facebook ads, you get results, and then you train a team beneath you and you have more clients come ahead and pay you because you have a system that works. You're getting success and success loves speed. So once you can then learn and understand the skill sets of leverage, then you want to leverage that down into teams and things like that. From there, then it comes down to Then it comes down to knowing what you don't know, okay? There's a circle in a pie that one of my other business mentors, Brandon Dawson, talks about, where there's 1% of knowledge that you do know, an additional 2% of knowledge that you don't know, and then the rest of the 97% is what you don't know that you don't know. And if you think that the same principles that got you to maybe double or triple your initial income from the skill set that you learned is going to get you to the next level, you're highly mistaken. And I had to learn that the hard way. Some things, worked out in business, some things didn't work out, just kind of like that roller coaster that happens. But that third thing that you need to understand is really humbling yourself on the ego, because once you make your first $50,000, $60,000 a month, you think you have it made. It's understanding this principle here. And there's always going to be someone that's bigger than you. So instead of having an ego, now that you've made about 30 to 50, 60 grand per month, start to humble yourself and then really start to think, okay, what's the next thing that I could actually do that can level up the income? So that for me was when I really started to look at my business differently. I'd hit $1 million in sales, but I started looking at my business a lot differently and what needs to be developed as well as where do I need to deploy capital to get the biggest ROI. May not be a short-term ROI. It could be a longer-term investment into the company or into myself or into the program. But that's what allowed me to then progress forward into the third skill set, which is the mechanics. Okay? We all know that when you go get a car checked, one thing impacts the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. That's why you brought your car into the first place. Whether that be the oil, whether that be water. I'm not a car dude, so I don't really know all the things that go into it. But if one thing's not working, it typically breaks the rest of the machine and then stalls the car, or it just can't move as efficiently as possible. So then the mechanics of the other parts of your business or the other parts of the skill sets that you need to learn really come in handy. So in the case of you have a skill set, now you're leveraging up something. Now it's how do I build something around the leverage that I'm wanting to build in order to have a machine that can be more conveyor belt like. So for the example of an advertising agency, let's say you first learn how to run Facebook ads. And then you taught a little bit of a team, maybe they're virtual assistants, and you how to do the same. So now you got someone that can run Facebook ads over here, and then this guy can run Facebook ads as well. Great. Now you still have to learn, now that you have the fulfillment down, you still have to learn client acquisition. You still have to learn sales. You still have to learn commission structures if you're going to start hiring salespeople. And then you also have to learn legal, make sure you don't get popped. My first company, the logo that I actually had, the name of the company, there was a bigger company out in the European nations over there. They had actually sent me a nice little letter saying, hey, don't use that name anymore. So that was something that I learned, but these are the other things that you can either have someone nicely just tell you to stop using the name, or you can actually start to have or you can just start to have less blind spots by investing into programs and things like that, okay? And really I can boil that down to mechanics. So that could be the mechanics of a business. If you're doing trading, that could be the mechanics of the stock markets and financial markets and stuff like that. But really investing into your education to broaden your scope of awareness is really, really important, because then you can start looking at your blind spots a little bit differently. Once I've learned the mechanics associated again with what I was looking to build, then it became the who. Okay? Who has done this before, right? And this is, again, if we look back at the cycle up here, who has done this before? How can they help me, right? Now the who's, for me, that could be team members, that could be mentors. For me though, that was mentors. If I wanted someone that already grew a multiple 8-figure business or even a 9-figure business, and I eventually wanted to get there, I will definitely pay for the proximity, because the proximity is power. Okay, so proximity in my network of being able to call up certain people has helped me. Even if they only give me one piece of advice, it changed the trajectory fully of my business, of my my health, my fitness, my relationships, etc. So the who then becomes more important, because you already know the mechanic. You've already levered out and built out a team beneath you of having highly skilled team members or highly valuable skill set that people are paying you for. Now it's who can you look for to potentially help bring you to the next level, because they've already been there before. And really that's the whole point of investing into a program, is who has done it so you can learn to the next level. But I think following this cycle, that becomes very, very important around stage 4. And then the 5th stage for me personally, then just becomes the network, okay? So who can help you, which proximity is power, but then you start to become that person, right? So then a lot of people will then start going to you as long as you're building goodwill and good faith. And if you pay it forward, you then start to build a great reputation along that business cycle. And again, that's gonna help you continue up on the growth of your business, because as soon as you get a negative review, as soon as someone tells you like, dude, this guy was a sleazebag, or this guy was, really unethical, that can crash all the momentum that you've built, whether that be business or that be personal, okay? And especially if you're going to be working with these people, the who's, the people that have actually helped you get to the stage where you're at, if you don't have your morals in line and you're not paying it forward and paying due what you kind of should give back to your own community that helped you get there in the first place, for the people that actually got you there, I personally feel that that is a easy way and a quick way to kind of go down, right, and not be able to help. Now, when it comes to the network thing, time is very, very valuable, okay? So when you get into these networks with these people, you really need to understand the value of time. And if you've gone through this, you'll understand at those different mechanics, the value of your time as a business owner. For me right now, my hourly rate, just based off of our business's daily sales, based off of the average burn rate that we have, as well as the revenue rate that we have, my time per hour is at minimum worth at least $3,000 an hour. And that's because of the amount of volume that we're putting into our company and into our systems. That output, not necessarily that I'll charge someone $3,000 an hour, but that output better be able to produce me that amount, because that's the volume in the game that we're playing at right now. So the value of time really becomes strong, and at least from a mental shift perspective, you already went through, again, having the skills, the leverage, the mechanics of being able to develop out leverage in each of those mechanics. And then who can help you get to the next level, or even structure things a bit differently to have that run more efficiently. Now it comes down to the time of being able to have the least amount of input, but getting the highest ROI activity back for yourself, for your business, for your health, relationships, etc. And it does take time. So if you know that time is going to be the most valuable asset for yourself and your team members, I think that just gets reciprocated through the whole entire funnel here of really where they're at in the cycle. And so the different life cycles in which someone is at that you could typically see, if they're starting out, if they've made their first million, if they've made 10 million, or if they've made 100 million, those are typically the different cycles that I look at. And there's obviously bridges and gaps in between, but I think that those are core pillars that you can look at when it comes to picking a mentor. What have they done for themselves? Where can they get you? Because if the mentor hasn't hit the number that you're looking to hit, then the question is, why are you talking to them? If they haven't hit $1 million, why are you going to talk to someone that is telling you that they can hit $1 million or teach you how to make $1 million when they haven't done it themselves? And is that $1 million revenue, or is that $1 million net? Two totally different things, okay? So there's just some things to consider. Those are some of the 5 most powerful things that I've learned, especially investing into myself, investing in the courses, the tactics and the knowledge. That's all great. But if you don't have this, in my opinion, this view of how this starts to transcend, there's only so much more knowledge that I can invest into that's actually going to continue to make difference. It's typically going to come from people, me being able to leverage that and actually have that information apply. If I don't take that information that I've learned and build that leverage, then the one thing that I learned from Bill Gates, who's an extreme billionaire, I cannot apply. His leverage, the mechanics of what he has underneath him, and the skill sets of the people that he has beneath him, that piece of advice he can implement immediately, have a high ROI on, because his advice is so valuable, right? Whereas if you're starting out from ground zero and you ask Bill Gates the same thing, it's not gonna matter, because you haven't gone through these different stages that then allow you to apply the things that the business will have as the infrastructure. So I hope that helps provide some value and some clarity on what I've learned through networking with a lot of different people, again, spending over $250,000 on masterminds programs and things that I've invested in. But if you guys wanna learn more, or if you guys just wanna continue to watch what we do on this channel, then go ahead and click like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. We go over crypto, e-commerce, entrepreneurship, and everything in between. So with that being said, guys, I'll see you in the next video.